Let's get into it. When I first, Coach Colin, Sold Not For Sale podcast, when I first heard Jordan Peterson say this with Joe Rogan, I knew that this was a slippery slope. I also noticed that X, formerly known as Twitter, had this option to verify your ID. And I thought that's a ridiculous thing to even put on your app, period. I was like, this is very odd. And Jordan Peterson's suggesting that people shouldn't be online and anonymous, and I think that is a huge mistake. I think you need to be anonymous if you so feel. I have no burner accounts. I don't do stuff like that. It's always my face. That's just how I've always been. But Jordan Peterson has a different thought process. So I'm going to play this clip, and then I'm going to show you some tweets of Jordan Peterson actually asking Elon Musk to do exactly what I was just talking about, which is unmask all the anonymous people online. I think this is very troubling because this will lead to Facebook doing it, Instagram, of course. You know, it'll just be all of social media, and before you know it, you can't even jump on a search engine without your passport or driver's license, and that is not a world any of us want to live in. That's just what I think. I'm going to show you the whole thing. Jordan Peterson asking Elon Musk to unmask these people is the last interaction of a whole string of beef that's transpired. His daughter's involved, Candace Owens is involved, Nick Fuentes is involved. It's absolutely ridiculous. And in my opinion, I think Jordan Peterson should be way above this type of stuff, and I don't know why he is having online Twitter beef with 25-year-olds. Let's get into it.
Yeah, I can really see this in my own life, because if you just looked at me virtually, you'd think like I was the world's most embattled person in some way, maybe not the world's most, but I'm up in the top 10 maybe. But in my real life, then I don't have any problems. I go around from town to town or from city to city, and every interaction I have with people on the street is positive. They either don't know me, which is fine, or they do, and then we have a positive interaction. And I've only had like 3 negative interactions with people in real life in the last 6 years. Like, they stand out because they're not fun, but they're extremely rare. But online, it's like, well, 50% of the people oppose Jordan Peterson. It's like, no, they don't. It's not even 1%. So we're building a virtual world that doesn't sample the real world very well, and that's not much different from building a delusion. So not good. Very, very unsettling. So,
that's Twitter.
Yeah.
Well, it's certainly Twitter before Elon Musk came along.
Yeah, well, Twitter's better, but it's still quite the snake pit.
Yeah.
One of the things I think might be done about that. See, I don't think that I've made this claim on Twitter that there's something cowardly about anonymous posting, and I'm not going to retract that because I believe that in 99% of the cases that's true. Now, people say, well, if you're a whistleblower, you have to be anonymous. And what about people in totalitarian states or in a company? Well, that's the whistleblowing problem. I think, 1% of anonymous posters are heroes, but like 80% of them are Machiavellians. And so...
Well, but there's also the factor of people that don't want to get in trouble at work.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's kind of the whistleblower problem.
But not even whistleblowers. I mean, people that just have opinions that
You mean that might get them in trouble with the College of Psychologists in Ontario, for example?
Yes.
Yeah, I know. And so, well, I think one of the ways of handling that technically, what I'd like to see happen at Twitter, for example, not that I'm in a position to know because I know it's complicated, is I think the anonymous types should be separated from the real people. So you could go visit them and see what they have to say, but the verified people, their comments are either at the top or in a different place. Because I don't think that we can set up a playable game online when the anonymous trolls have the same rights as the verified responsible people. And I also think, and I don't know what you think about this, Joe, but, let's say you want to be a whistleblower, you want to say something that's going to get you in trouble at work. So you want to do it anonymously. It's like, well, maybe you're shirking your responsibility. Because maybe you have a responsibility, and I could be persuaded alternatively, but maybe you have a responsibility if you have something to say it in your own voice and to put yourself behind it. And maybe you're taking the easy way out by not doing that. And, I don't want to say that about every single person who posts anonymously, but, tyranny emerges when normal, honest people are now afraid to say what they think. And when the tyranny is complete, in a totalitarian state, no one ever says what they think about anything. Everyone lies all the time. And I see part of the pathway to that, the unwillingness of ordinary people to take the consequences of their truthful speech. You know, and I also think that's detrimental to them, because I think that you find the adventure in your life. I think this is certainly true of you. You find the adventure in your life by standing behind your words. Like, that's you, right? Those are your words. If you're telling the truth, that's actually you. And there's going to be consequences. And sometimes they're going to be negative. But do you really think that the consequences of telling the truth in your own voice are negative? You think the world's structured like that? Jesus, that's a dismal view, man.
Well, it depends on the amount of autonomy you have. It depends on the amount of resources you have.
Yeah.
I mean, like, let's take for example, nerd.
So that is Jordan Peterson talking about how he feels about online. He calls it online trolling, but this is obviously going to span to just anybody. Anybody who just wants to be online, just wants to cruise through some stuff, connect with people, you know, things of that nature. So I think right away, I just want to say the adventure of life for some people could be losing their job. The adventure for life for some people, honestly, we've been seeing a little rash of this, could be an agency coming to your door wanting to ask you about some things that you tweeted. That could be the adventure of life too for some people. Some people don't want that adventure, you know? And that's coming from somebody who posts his face, not my wife's, not my kids, nothing like that, but not my family, not my brother's, mother, nothing like that, but sisters, you know? But I post my face every day, right? And I understand that just some people don't want to do that. And no one should have to. No one should have to put their full name, driver's license, passport on the internet in order for them to be seen like everybody else, right? What we were looking for with online community was for everybody to be the same, to have the same information that they could access and to be heard the same way. If all of a sudden we have this whole verified world and unverified world, well, then all of a sudden, you know what's going to happen. The verified people are going to disrespect the unverified people. Just another, we have so many boxes that are already being pushed on us constantly. Now it's going to be verified and unverified. You know, Twitter already set something like this up, and you could do it. You could just click, I only want to see verified responses. And I think that's garbage. I don't go in for that kind of thing, you know? And if YouTube had that type of thing, I wouldn't go in for that either. I'll talk to somebody or have it out with somebody that's user 5-6B189 or somebody who has a name or someone who has a picture. Like, I don't care. I don't know, man. I just think it's really bad. But here's Jordan Peterson calling Elon Musk to actually do this. So it's been a theory that he's had for a long time, but now he's actually wanting it to get put into action. And the reason why is going to astound you. Maybe it won't. I think it's rather immature myself. He says, dearly Elon Musk, there is a lot of this on X and even more all the time. There is no consequence for the psychopathic behavior on this platform and the usual anonymity. I'm not even sure if I said that word right. Has a lot to do with it. Separate the real people with verified and genuine IDs. I think that's such a bad thing to do. From the pathetic, cowardly, anonymous troll demons. And then look at that. Even look at that language. If you're not someone who decides to put your ID on a social media platform, well, you're instantly thrown into pathetic, cowardly, anonymous troll demon. What if you're just a guy? You're just a lady. What if you're not a demon or a troll? They are not the LOL comedians having fun with the lulz culture. They are worse than anyone wants to imagine, and purposely so. Failure to hold them accountable not only compromises the platform, but the integrity of society itself, as the dark triad types multiply without restraint. This is crazy. And this is why he's saying this, because people uploaded pictures of him looking like a rat. People are calling him a rat. And what it stems from, people aren't just doing this for no reason. is because he was calling people rats. He was calling one person, this guy Nick Fuentes, young guy, 25 years old, less than half Jordan Peterson's age. He decided to call him a rat. Then Michaela Peterson decides to say that if you're calling a group of people, which would be Jewish people, if you're calling them rats or anything else derogatory, you should be censored on Twitter. And Nick Fuentes says to her, hey, your dad just called me a rat. Michaela Peterson responds like, oh, did that hurt? Like she doesn't care. So for one group, she's like, this should be censored. And then all of a sudden for another group of people or a person, it's completely fine. She goes on record saying, I think it's different when it's just one person being called a rat versus a group of people. It's absolute lunacy that's happening on X right now. Let me just read the rest of what Jordan Peterson had to say. Consider this, sir, and consider this, sir. This is to Elon Musk. I don't give a damn about the personal attacks. Not true. I faced worse than this cockroach swarm, but I am serious about the broader social danger posed by the children of Cain. Children of Cain, I don't know if you've ever read the Bible, but Cain was the first person to murder someone out of jealousy and envy. His children went on to be exactly the same way, if not worse. They've gained the upper hand before, and it has not been pretty. Elon Musk. Then somebody says to him in here, you know, you're calling Elon to censor people? He says, clue in, I said in writing, separate the anonymous cowards from the people willing to stand behind their words. I just think it's so, such a slippery slope. This, and you know, I'll talk about it a little later, but this really makes me feel like, is this by design? Is this happening by design? Like when I go into 5D chess mode and I'm wearing my tinfoil Speedo, I'm like, is this happening purposely? Are these elite people who we recognize and put on pedestals, are they forcing us into this situation where we have to put our IDs online so we can all be tracked that way? It just makes me think that right away. He said, clue in, I said in writing, separate, yeah, okay. And then which camp are you in, basically? I think this is absolute nonsense. This is not the first time he said something like this. I don't know if you can read that, but back in 2022, he said, by failing to separate the anonymous, cowardly troll demons from the real people in the comment sections, YouTube and other social media platforms are enabling sadistic, Machiavellian psychopaths and narcissists. Agree or disagree? Completely disagree. And also, you don't have to listen to those people. You could easily just not listen to them. You could block them. You could say, I am not going to listen to you. It's so easy. But instead, he thinks everyone should be unmasked because he's having trouble with a few people. So Nick Fuentes actually said to him, this all started because you called me a rat, but now your insult is being thrown back at you and you demand unmasking of Anonymous to ensure accountability, which really means chilling free speech under the threat of retaliation. You are a shameless hypocrite and fraud. And honestly, the proof of that is actually Jordan Peterson right here saying, you, Nick Fuentes, are a psychopathic rat. Nick Fuentes is somebody who could be deemed as anti-Semitic. He could also be deemed as just, I don't know, he's a kid. He's 25 years old and he says a lot of dumb stuff, quite honestly. That's exactly what's happening here. There's other people who are calling out Jordan Peterson. Says, what the hell happened to this guy? 2016, Jordan Peterson used to say things like this. You start your argument with slander. And he used to call people out for doing that type of thing. And we all loved it because we understood what he was doing when you say stuff like that. Now, 2024, he's saying, hey, new Nazi troll rats. He's even calling people Nazis. You know, there is footage of him talking about how people don't understand what they're doing when they call people these names. When you hurl around Hitler and like Robert De Niro throwing around Mussolini in comparison to Trump, and what you're doing, how you're devaluing and almost dismissing what these people did. You know, Trump ran for president, started no wars, and overall had a great presidency, and you're comparing him to someone who killed 6 million people. It's just not what you do. Ben Shapiro, when he first hit the scene, he is a religious Jewish person, and some newspaper, because they didn't like what he was saying and how conservative he was, called him a white supremacist Nazi. And he was like, hey, I'm Jewish, take that back. And now Jordan Peterson's doing the exact same thing. I find this so crazy. When he's on Joe Rogan next, I really hope Joe addresses this, because Joe's mantra to all of his friends have always been, hey, don't read the comments. And Jordan Peterson cannot get through through his head whatsoever. Here he's saying, and this was an actual tweet, this is not something that was made up, just wanted to show you guys. He says, hey, new Nazi troll rats. These are to the people who are pretty much bothering him online, which he could easily just silence and block. Anonymously trumpeting your anti-Semitism doesn't rescue you from your mother's basement or from the demon of resentment, or make you more attractive to the women who take one look at you and shudder, and rightly bloody so. You are despicable, bottom-rung cowards using Gaza, Hamas as a camouflage for your detestable cluster B, psychopathy, narcissism, Machiavellian, and of course, sadism. I've got your number, you pathetic, tantrum-throwing toddlers. You don't even have the courage of genuine bullies, you Cheeto dust covered, sweat stain. I didn't even read this. Jesus, man, come on. You know, I have a saying that I use. I'll say this to family. I say this to friends when somebody's getting out of line. I say, hey, man, and this is, you know, as we get older, this becomes true. And I'll say, hey, you're closer to 60 than you are to 5. And when I say that to people, I mean, hey, you're almost very old. You should stop engaging in childish stuff. And that's what I'd have to say to Jordan Peterson with this stuff. Although it's wild to hear him insulting somebody so vigorously, but at the same time, if it's getting to him to the point where person who could have influence on Elon Musk is calling for all of us to have to enter in our IDs on social media, which will be a snowball effect into other social media platforms and eventually just being online in general. It is a very terrible thing for him to be doing this. So he did call Nick Fuentes a rat. There's other people who are now calling out Jordan Peterson. I've never seen this much hate coming from the right for Jordan Peterson. These people are saying he's a fraud and a drug addict. After taking Israel money, he started pushing agenda for mass slaughter in Gaza. You know, after spending his entire career pushing for the importance of truth, he's now pushing lies for profit. He's now just an old sad man yelling Nazi. This is wild that this is happening. Let's get to what Michaela Peterson had to say as well. Let's check this out right here. This is Michaela Peterson talking about her situation.
Anyway, Nick Fuentes, I don't know because I don't care, a well-known anti-Semitic boy, went after me along with his thousands of anti-Semitic followers because I said that people who use the hashtag filth or rats when referring to an entire nation of people should be censored. Like I said, this was after I got attacked for retweeting a medical doctor who had the original anti-Semitic post, retweeting it in a negative way. Again, I meant these people's content shouldn't be pushed by the algorithm. I shouldn't have said censored. And Nick Fuentes responds with, your dad called me a rat. And I would like to clarify, I think calling individuals rats or whatever is fine, particularly if they are rat-like. I think it's different when you're referring to an entire nation of people as rats that have been subject to, say, Hitler less than 100 years ago, when the Nazis of the 1930s also referred to those people as rats as a tactic to breed disgust. So yeah, I think referring to Jews as rats is completely different than referring to Nick Fuentes as a rat. And if you can't understand the differentiation, I can't help. Social media really allows views to propagate unnaturally. If some of these anti-Semitic tweets were spoken in an ordinary public setting, the individual would be being punched. But then these views grow and their followers go out into public thinking everyone agrees with that view. I don't think freedom of speech is the same thing as being pushed by an algorithm. I shouldn't have to go on TikTok to hide propaganda pushed by the Chinese government, and I don't want to go on X to hide Nazi posts from my feed. Nothing against Elon here. I think there are bots or fake accounts behind a lot of this, and possibly funding from Iran. And I know he's trying to get that under control.
This is wild. So just to be clear, right, aside from, Jewish people and Hitler and everything like that, you're not being pushed by an algorithm. This is, and it's so funny because Ben Shapiro just had to testify in front of Congress about this. And he was talking about how his company, Daily Wire, Joe Rogan, Donald Trump, Breitbart News, more than likely Jordan Peterson as well is on that list. They're all, especially Daily Wire, he's a part of Daily Wire, they're all getting censored. Ben Shapiro talked about what the censorship was, is that they were not pushing their material through the algorithm. They were stunting them in that way. I even showed you guys emails in my last post, and one person who was a part of something called GARM said, I'm going to throttle this guy, and he was talking about Joe Rogan. So the censorship actually does come in the form of not pushing something into an algorithm. It actually is the same thing. And the fact that she thinks I shouldn't have to unfollow people, I shouldn't have to block people in order for me to not see the things I don't want to see, Elon should handle it, the company should handle it, is such a terrible take. It's such a terrible take. I'm black. I see black racist stuff all the time. All the time. I'll see a bunch of kids beating up a white kid and I'll be like, oh, wow, this is just ridiculous. And I think it's horrible behavior and I condemn the kids. And then all of a sudden I see all these racist comments. What am I supposed to do? I move on. I don't even block anybody. I move on. I can't all of a sudden be like, hey, this whole platform should change based on what I like to see and what I don't like to see. I also see very left-leaning accounts saying things all the time. Do those people have to get censored as well? Because I don't like that. I've seen people who are straight up Marxist. I don't like that. Do all of a sudden I have the right to be like, hey, I don't want this on social media anymore because I know what communism leads to. And I know what you're doing when you push this Marxist agenda. Do I get to do that? No, of course not. Whew, this is getting crazy. There's this something that Candace Owens said here as well. Candace Owens is getting into beef with these people. It's very interesting. Listen to this.
But what was more shocking was when Nick Fuentes, who is considered the leader of the Groyper movement, wrote this in response to her. He wrote, "Your dad literally called me a rat last week. Thank you for exposing yourself and revealing who you really work for. Both of you freaks should be deported to Israel since you love it so much they can have you." And he attached a tweet from Jordan Peterson where Jordan Peterson did in fact write this to Nick Fuentes. He wrote, "You, at Nick Fuentes, really are a psychopathic rat." So yeah, now we're in a conflict here. She is calling for the censorship of her father, right? I mean, if you're saying the standard is just calling somebody a rat, and it is not just because it is a phrase that's being directed at Jews, but because calling people rats is wrong, then your father would have to be censored. And so when Nick Fuentes raised this obvious conundrum to her, here's what she wrote back. She wrote back, "Oh my God, were you called a rat? Did that hurt? I work for myself, you loser. And I know that Jews' success is due to their above average IQ. But I'm sure blaming a nation of people for your failings is easier for you." I'm sorry, what? So now she's like, aha, yeah, you're a rat, or did that hurt your feelings? That just doesn't seem like a stable or a rational response to someone pointing out the fact that your father just said something that you're calling for censorship for. Or are you saying that it should only be censored if it is being directed at a person that is Jewish? She's not clear on that. But what is clear is that Jordan Peterson jumped into this and doubled down on calling somebody a rat. Here's what he wrote. He wrote, "I apologize for calling you a rat, Nick Fuentes. Rats are just animals. They happen to be an enemy of mankind. So they are like you in that regard, but they are merely acting on instinct, whereas you are motivated by a will for ignorance so deep that it's kind of a miracle, in combination with a profound malevolence. So I was unfair to the rats. Hence my apology. Take note, Michaela." He further added, "I don't regret the psychopath moniker, however. You and your followers, I know your type, buddy boy, but you don't know mine." Okay, so parking aside the fact that it's written in sonnet form, which is something that I don't quite understand why he's doing that, Jordan Peterson has built himself as somebody who is calm, who is rational, who relies on logic, who is a person who believes in radical free speech. He's now coming to the aid of his daughter and essentially doubling down on calling, this is again a 62-year-old man, calling a 24-year-old a rat. And what is the reason, by the way? Because we should also say what is it that Nick Fuentes said that garnered that response from Jordan Peterson? Then they get to hide behind their shell and say, oh, no, look, but also Nick Fuentes disagrees with it. So everyone disagrees with me as a...
I just said a bunch of stuff that you guys didn't hear. Some of you like when you can't hear me. That's okay. But some of you actually do like to hear. So basically, there was a debate. There was a challenge put out by Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes ended up saying, hey, I will challenge you guys to a debate. It can be you, Michaela, and Jordan Peterson versus me. You could have any handicap you want. Please debate me on this topic. Let's get into it. And they said, no, this is Candace's take on it.
Then they get to hide behind their shell and say, oh, no, look, but also Nick Fuentes disagrees with it. So everyone disagrees with me as a Hitler Nazi Fuentes person. It's a nonsense. It's an absolute nonsense because they don't have the courage. They're actually cowards. They do not have the courage to debate their ideas legitimately. That is why it is a fallacy, because they're basically trying to establish a boogeyman that says, ooh, you can't think that too. Fuentes also thinks this. I'm not playing that game. So you can keep cutting clips of Nick Fuentes like Don Lemon did, like Piers Morgan did. Do you disavow? Nope, buddy, I am not going to sit here and disavow someone that I've never made a vow to. It's a nonsense. It's a game. It's a leftist tactic. If there is something that Nick Fuentes has said and you say, Candace, do you agree with this? I will happily disagree if I don't agree with it, because that's what I always do. That's literally what I've made a career doing. I have the courage to say, I don't agree with this person on that or this person on that. But I also have the courage to say, yes, I agree with this person, that we should not be transing children, that we should not be doing this. And so I am just really tired of what I believe to be neocon cowardice when it comes to rationally debating their ideas. And I think it's because they don't think they can win on the basis of their ideas.
Oh, man. Again, this is all very sad to see happening between Jordan Peterson, Candace Owens, Michaela Peterson. You know, I would like to see all of them get along. They're on the same side when it comes to free speech, when it comes to being anti-woke, when it comes to standing up to that type of thing. They've been on the same page for so long, and, you know, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. You know, this Nick guy is 25 years old. Jordan Peterson does not have to respond to this person even, you know? I don't get it, but the fact that he's now calling for people to have their IDs online it feels like such a betrayal from one of the first commentators that I have ever listened to and taken in and been like, wow, I can change my life based on this man's teachings and based on what he stands for. And for him to now be saying this type of stuff, it makes no sense to me. No sense. The man who said freedom of speech is freedom of thought. In order for you to think, you have to be able to speak. You need freedom of speech because once your speech is being compelled by law or being censored, it then censors your thoughts. It then compels your thoughts, and that's unacceptable. He's been saying this for the longest time. I know me and so many others live by some of the things that he has taught. You know, it's just, listen to this. Just let's just play this real quick.
The debate that's been very controversial for you. And this is, you got into trouble for refusing to call trans men and women by their preferred personal pronouns.
No,
I want to
that's
ask.
not actually true. I got in trouble because I said I would not follow the compelled speech dictates of the federal and provincial government. I actually never got in trouble for not calling anyone anything.
Right.
That didn't happen.
You wouldn't follow the change of law, which was designed
Not
to
once it was
outlaw
law.
discrimination.
No.
Why
Well,
should
that's
your...
what they said it was designed to do.
Okay, you cited freedom of speech in that. Why should your right to freedom of speech trump a trans person's right not to be offended?
Because in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive. I mean, look at the conversation we're having right now. You know, like you're certainly willing to risk offending me in the pursuit of truth. Why should you have the right to do that? It's been rather uncomfortable.
Well, I'm very glad I put you on the spot.
Well,
I'm very glad that I have exercised my freedom of speech.
You get my point. It's like you're doing what you should do, which is digging a bit to see what the hell's going on.
So
and that is what you should do. But you're exercising your freedom of speech to certainly risk offending me. And that's fine. I think more power to you as far as I'm concerned.
So you haven't sat there and... I'm just trying to work that out. I mean...
Ha, gotcha.
You have got me. I'm trying to work that through in my head. Yeah, it took a while.
It did, yeah.
It took a while. You have...
Oh man, amazing. Things like that. That guy. Where is that guy? You know, a lot of people are online and being like, oh, ever since he got with the Daily Wire. I don't know if it's that. I don't know if it's stress. I don't know if it's just you change with time. I have no idea what it is. Maybe it's just the people on Twitter getting to him. Maybe he's just had enough. Maybe he's on Twitter too much. But somebody who is such a strong figure in freedom of speech and being able to be online and risk being offensive, for him to turn this way, in my opinion, it could be detrimental to the movement in general. Because if all of a sudden Jordan Peterson's on the other side, we're in trouble. I can't stand up to him. I can't do it. I can do it, but I don't have a way with words like he does. He has an incredible way with words. He has an incredible way with thought. And the reason that he's gotten that way is because he has risked offending people year after year, as well as diving deep into the psychology, diving deep into communism, Marxism, totalitarian societies, where it all goes, how it all starts. And he should know, if anyone knows, he should know that what he's requesting from Elon Musk is something that can put us in, I'll say this, can put us a step in the direction of a totalitarian society. And if only, and this is a big if only online, that's still massive. It's still a massive amount of control. It's still a massive step in what I think is the wrong direction. Anyways, guys, I just wanted to show you guys that. Long friend of JRE. I hope Joe has him on soon. I hope they have a 5-hour discussion. I hope he's able to convince Jordan Peterson to stay offline and just be the great man that he is, write books, do speeches, things of that nature. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Let me know what you think in the comment section of this whole thing. Other than that, like, subscribe, notifications. I'm out.